Good afternoon, and welcome to the Be Strong Families Daily Webinar Series, Staying Strong and Positive for Ourselves and Our Children. As you are coming in, please type your name and your location into the chat. Make sure that you have chosen everyone so we can all see it. We'd like to know who is in the room. Awesome. Hi, Linda. And where's Victorville? What state are you in, Linda? I'm Robyn, and I am from Chicagoland, but I am in the southern region of Illinois. Hi, Kristen from Valparaiso. Awesome. Thank you. In California. Thanks, Linda. Suburbs. Great. And Rudolfo from Chicago. Great. Hi, Tammy. Georgia. Evelyn from Chicago. I may mispronounce this, but Errol from San Francisco, welcome, and Stephanie from Texas, wonderful. So we have people from all over.
Yes.
Today. Nicole from Crystal Lake, Illinois. That's right down the street from me. And Washington, D.C., Latisha, yes. Awesome, Nicole. You're just like 35 minutes from me. I'm out in DeKalb. Jack from Portland, Oregon. Hey, Jack. And Erica from Indiana and South Bend. Welcome. If you are just joining us, I'm Robyn Harvey. This is Be Strong Families Daily Webinar Series, Staying Strong and Positive for Ourselves and Our Children. And everybody is just typing their name and their location into the chat so we know who we're talking to today. Hi, Wendy from Allentown, Pennsylvania. Nice to have you guys. Great.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
And Vanity from Dallas, Texas. A couple people from Dallas, Texas here. Nice to have you all here with us today. And Janera from Maryland. Hi, welcome. All right, Andrea, I think that we should just go ahead and get started because we have a lot to talk about today.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I am Latisha Atkins. So happy to be here with you. I am a consultant trainer with the Be Strong Families. And again, I am so excited to be here talking about this topic today. But before we get started, we want you to be able to engage with us. And here are some ways that you can do just that. When you're ready to speak, just simply raise your hand and we will ask for you to unmute yourself, or you can even drop that information in the chat. So feel free to type your comments in the group chat and just make sure it is going to everyone. And please be patient with us. We have some Andrew who is with us on our team today. He's really great at managing all of the tech side of things, but just be patient with us as we know sometimes technology can be wacky. So bear with us as we get through this. Now today we have some agreements, not rules, but agreements, because we want to keep this space as safe as possible. So we are asking that you speak from your own experience. And how do you do that? Just by using those I statements. Follow the golden rule. And that is simply to treat other people the way that you want to be treated. We're asking that you bring your full presence. Please, no multitasking. I think this is a wonderful topic we'll be discussing, so hopefully we'll capture your attention. And if you need a moment or need a minute, simply take a minute, join us back. We'll be right here. And if you agree to these agreements, simply put in the chat, I agree, and then we can establish this safe space for everyone today.
Thanks, everybody. I see a lot of you typing I agree. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. And I see some new people have come in. Welcome. Hopefully you're in the right place. Today we're going to it's our daily webinar series from Be Strong Families, Staying Strong and Positive for Ourselves and Our Children. Andrea, if you want to go ahead with the next slide. So today we're going to be talking about serving parents in recovery. It's a conversation to increase partnership. I'm Robyn Harvey. I serve as the Director of Programs and Training for Be Strong Families. And I, in a life long time ago, I served as a foster parent for about 20 years. And I am so excited to be here today because this is so close to my heart. And I am joined by a dear colleague of mine, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Good morning again, everyone. My name is Latisha Atkins, consultant trainer for Be Strong Families, and I am a foster parent here in the District of Columbia. I've been a foster parent since 2020, and I can say it has been a roller coaster ride, the joys, the challenges, but at the end of the day, it is such a rewarding experience. And so I'm glad and happy to be here discussing this with you today.
Thanks. And thanks for being here, Latisha. I really think we're going to have a really great conversation about the role of a foster parent in the shared parenting. And we all know that there's a little bit of an aspect of, at least on my part, I was a young foster mom and I didn't have a lot of life experience. And I was judgmental and I held a lot of biases and all of those things. And today we're gonna kind of do two different things at once. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna have some conversations like we always do on Mondays. You know, Mondays are our conversation webinars where we really put some questions out from one of our decks and everybody, you know, has a time to talk about those things in a safe space. And then at the end, we're gonna give you guys a really great sneak peek of our new curriculum that's coming out to support shared parenting. So we're just super excited, right, Latisha?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So excited.
And then Latisha alluded to this or said it out loud, but Andrew Hitchcock is in the background. He's from Minnesota. He's going to be doing our tech. And if you have any, you know, anything to say, put it in the chat or raise your hand and he'll help you to get yourself off mute so you can bring your voice into the conversation. If you are shy or nervous or anything like that, feel free to type it out. But I'd really love to hear from people today. I'd really love to get your voices in the room because this is one of the ways that Be Strong Families is kind of collecting like our community's information and we're bringing it forward. So when you all are contributing in webinars, it's making my brain fire. And it's bringing me to a place where, oh, they need this or that, and putting Be Strong Families in a good place, good opportunity, good space to give our community what you're looking for. So please go ahead and chat away. Next slide, Andrew. So today's conversations are all going to be framed around our journey to Vitality Café in a box. This box is about our vitality domains. There's 6 domains: physical, mental, and emotional, spiritual, financial, environmental. I think I got them all. But today we're really going to be focusing in on the social vitality. So our social vitality is really about our support system. This is the joy that the family and the friends that we have can add to our lives, and the joy that bringing people into our communities can bring to our lives. Questions in this domain, they're really focused on the energy that the current people in our life support and reinforce. It also addresses how we create those nurturing relationships and how we kind of grow those relationships. It's how we improve our social vitality, and that, you know, just increases our overall vitality. For some, building social vitality can relate to how we spend our time and with who we surround ourselves. Our friends and our associates, our colleagues can greatly enhance or undermine our holistic vitality. Thanks, Andrew. And Andrew did put a link in the chat there, so you could go and learn more about that deck of cards as well. So we're going to go through and we're going to go through these questions again. Please feel free to pipe in.
Thank you, Robyn. Yeah, so our first question is, how does judging people add to or detract from building a positive community?
That's a super question. And I think it's a little bit difficult sometimes without kind of selling yourself out, like for me at least. And so why I say that is like, I don't believe judging people builds community at all. it kind of separates for me, like us and them. So like if you're in the community, I don't know, does that make sense, Latisha?
It does. It does. And when I thought about this question, because I really, I really wanted to just, I use these webinars as a check-in point with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about, am I guilty of actually judging others? And then I just, that caused me to want to research some more, do some more readings around being judgmental and the pros and the cons of judging others. And I found that, in it of itself, judging is not a fundamentally bad thing, because, we teach our children to judge other people's character to make sure that they're, hanging with the right people, not the wrong crowd. So, sometimes judging is just that, in its positive form, as long as we're not basing that judgment on stereotypes or negative perspectives, then sometimes it could be a great thing to really look at, who do I want to surround myself with? Do we share common morals? Do we have common values? So in it of itself, I don't think it's such a bad thing, but we always have to keep it in check and keep it in perspective.
Yeah, so this is a conversation that my husband and I have had repetitively over the last year, because I say, like, judging or sorting is one of the first skills that we learn as kids. Like, put all the blue bears in this bucket, put all the green bears in this bucket. It's, it's like a basic kindergarten preschool skill that we learn. But I love that you took it a little farther and kind of reinforced what my husband's been saying. Like, innately, it's about keeping ourselves safe.
Absolutely.
And making our lives go forward. Like, so we're judging people positively and negative, like we should hang with these people because they share our moral code. We shouldn't hang with these people because they do not. But I think that also that there's people in this group over here, at least in my life, that I may have misjudged. I didn't lean in and didn't ask the right questions. I didn't have enough proximity to that person to really know. So I was judging based on what you were talking about, like stereotypes and biases. And, I think that I may have missed out on some really awesome people that way. And bringing them, closer to my community or joining their community, has always led to huge growth for me.
Absolutely. And I can remember, I thought about where I grew up. I grew up in North Carolina, a town that was, black and white, right? And oftentimes we didn't commingle. And it was not until I left that town and I came to Washington, D.C., that I began to open myself up to meeting new people who didn't look like me, who may not speak like me, who may vote differently from me. And I realized that we still had so many things in common that if I had not allowed myself to be open to just talking, right? Because I think you said it best, just not, just opening myself up to a conversation with other people, that I would have really missed some great friends that I now call friends and family, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Does anybody want to answer this question? How does judging people add or detract from building a positive community? Anybody? It's a harder question, I think.
It is definitely one that makes you think,
Yeah.
especially for me. As I said, I had to put that mirror up and say, are you guilty of judging people negatively based on stereotypes?
Yeah, when I think back to my active foster parenting and all of the different birth parents that I had opportunity to either get to know or not get to know, I missed out on some really great people for a lot of years. My oldest adopted son, he has a sister, and she's on a journey to recovery. And she's been at various stages for the last, I met him about 20 years ago now, for the last 20 years. And in the last 5 years, I've grown up enough as a person to suspend some of the things that I thought and started really to get to know her. And I was missing out on a really wonderful person. Wow. Who had some really deep struggles that I didn't understand or, know anything about. And the more I got to know her, the more I drew her closer to me and put her in as part of our family and as part of our community. I was realizing what a gift I had left unopened for so
Wow.
many years.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's
that's
awesome.
yeah, I feel really good about it, not just because, oh, I'm like this benevolent savior, lady type. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, she's given me a gift. She's helped me see things through a different lens that I would have never even thought about. The way she looks at the world is completely different than mine. So it's been such a eye-opening experience to get to know her.
Wow. That just warmed my heart, because again, like, is what you just said, you could have missed that gift, that opportunity. And I think the underneath it all, people come with different perspectives, different backgrounds. And it's just, I'm getting better at it as I get older. I put myself in other people's shoes, because I hope that they will put themselves in my shoes to understand each other. And that's where I think it starts, is having that simple understanding of each other, and understanding that sometimes differences, we have more in common than we have, different,
Definitely. I definitely see that within this relationship for sure. Does anybody else want to comment on this before we move on? How does judging people or add to or detract from building a positive community? So Stephanie is offering, often when we stay in our comfort zone, we aren't growing. Going beyond your comfort zone and learn more and grow, and having an open mind that you can always learn from people is helpful. Totally agree, Stephanie.
Yes.
Totally agree. I was not that person a while back. Awesome. All right, Andrew, let's go ahead and put up that second question. So the second question we want to explore together is when, why, and with whom do you share your judgments and opinions about other people?
Wow.
I told you, Latisha, I was going to kind of give us zingers today, right?
You are, I'm telling you, this mirror is right here in my face. And I will say, if I may start, I will definitely say, again, as I've gotten older, I've been able to really have empathy for other people, and try not to judge people. But I'm human. We all judge, right? And that is just our natural capacity and inclination. And so as I've gotten older, and I begin to open myself up. I think as Stephanie said, growing my mind and opening my mind, moving beyond my comfort zone, I begin to check myself quicker than I would in the past. I would just, what I said is the truth. And I would share, for me, I would share my opinions of other people, typically with people who I had those same traits with. If you don't look like us, if you don't talk like us, if you don't act like us, you're not a part of our circle. But as I've gotten older and kind of moved away from that perspective, that way of thinking, I begin to really check myself internally. And so have those conversations internally and say, why am I feeling this way about this person? Am I giving them an opportunity to show me who they are? And am I opening myself up to be friendly to them so that they can feel comfortable sharing themselves with me? And so that has really allowed me to just be seen as someone that people can trust. I live in a community that is right now, Washington, D.C. is vastly changing. It used to be known as Chocolate City. It is now more cappuccino, right? We have different cultures, more races. And that's a good thing, because it's so energizing to be able to learn from others. And so I now check myself internally to see where these thoughts coming from about someone, particularly someone I don't know. Right. And then if I do know them, and again, it may be just that, we can be really great associates. Again, I also have to be safe. You use that word. I also have to be mindful who I allow into my space. Because not everybody is good for me, and I'm not good for everyone else, but we can get along.
Yeah.
Right. So again, now just maturity allows you to understand that, sometimes, are we coming from a negative space, or toxic space of judging others? Or is it really a space that I want to just be able to keep myself safe from not allowing any and everyone to come into my space.
Yeah, I think that really resonates with me as well. And this question, when I was, going through our deck and looking for appropriate questions for our webinar today, it was kind of that, like you said, mirror in my face. Because when I was younger, I would share my judgments with anybody who would listen. If you had open ears and you would entertain it, I would tell you what I thought about everything, not just people, situations, what's going on in life, anything that. I was very opinionated. And it took me a while and some pretty harsh life experiences to come to the mature place of I don't know everything, and that I'll be happier, number one, and I'll get further in relationships and community if I am more curious than judgmental. So now I kind of like check myself and say, okay, I notice I'm judging because I've been conditioned to judge, and my mom was very judgmental as well, and she shared it with me. That's how I became conditioned to, kind of be critical. But now when I see those critical thoughts, I check myself by saying, okay, where did that thought come from? Why do I think it? Is it my thought, or is that my mom in my ear? And that has been just a catapult for me. Because now, instead, like if somebody does something that I would deem, not in line with how I like things, now instead of saying they're just bad, now I can say to myself, okay, who taught you that was bad? Why is it bad? Do you really believe it's bad? Do you need to tell anybody about this? Because there are times where I do have to tell somebody about it because it's a safety issue or something is going awry. But it's changed. It's changed over the years. And it's allowed me to expand my community in a deep way, not just always wide. I have a lot of associates. I have a lot of colleagues. I have a lot of people I call friends. And I have a very large family, but it's deep into the relationships when we don't talk about people. So I saw a quote, and I'm going to get it wrong, and maybe Andrew with his fast fingers can look it up really quick. He's always doing that for me. But there's a quote, something like, smart people talk about, or, something about people talking about people.
Yes.
I don't want to call them dumb people because everybody does talk about somebody at some point. But intelligent, wise people talk about ideas.
Yes.
And that's always like, ringing in the back of my head is, do I need to talk about the person or do I need to talk about the concept and what's going on? There you go, Andrew. I knew you could do it.
Average minds.
Yeah, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people. Yes.
Yes. Eleanor Roosevelt. Yes.
Yeah, that's one of my heroes. So who wants to be the first one to break into our chat and answer this question? When, why, and with whom do you share your judgments and opinions about other people?
I would love to hear other perspectives. This is helping me to grow and expand.
Yeah. Oh, great minds discuss ideas. Average mind discuss events. Small minds discuss people. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, there was a time, Latisha, while someone's typing, I know I can feel that they're going to answer this question, but there was a time early in my foster parenting career where I had a birth mom who I didn't particularly agree with her lifestyle or the way she had treated her kids, and I wasn't really open to having a really huge relationship. But I also knew from my training that you can't talk about that in front of the kids.
Yes.
That they have their parents on a pedestal, and that's not fair of me to take them down off that pedestal.
Absolutely.
My husband and I came up with a rule early on in our fostering that we would never talk about the birth parents in our own state. Well, because we didn't travel back then, because we didn't have any money to travel, we rarely left the state, which conditioned us not to talk negatively about them, because that was our rule and our standard. So we didn't even share our own thoughts together about the kids' parents. We just kind of held it. And until there wasn't any more bad thoughts. Like, all right. So Alyssa, She says if they're doing something that might be considered dangerous or detrimental, I share it with the intentions of finding solutions with my supervisor. Yeah, thank you. And sometimes I think that it is important to tell someone if it's a safety issue, if someone's going to get hurt or if someone's going to get hurt. Stephanie says, my best friend and I, for over 20 years, bounce things off each other to check ourselves. We have calls almost daily and leave space to bounce scenarios. And we are able to take constructive criticism from each other. That's awesome, Stephanie. I have a friend too, Tina. One time I had told my doctor that I was having really bad like PMS, and my doctor put me on some medication. And it was making my mind like even worse then. And I was crying a lot. I was doing all things. She didn't even tell me, but she called my husband and she said, whatever Robyn's taking for this PMS, she needs to be off of it.
Wow.
She went behind me, but I've always really respected that she knew something was wrong and I didn't take it as gossip. She wasn't calling my husband to gossip about me or judge me, but she was using her discernment to say something's not right here. We need to look at it.
Absolutely.
Kristen says, I talk to kind people who practice discretion and are comfortable with calling me in and having a conversation if I'm off the mark. Sometimes having these conversations is good for me to listen to my gut and to build healthy relationships. Thanks for offering those answers. Those
Yes.
really great. Who else wants to chime in? I just really love this discussion. I know it's a little bit like challenging, but even if you can't answer in a chat or if you're not comfortable, verbalizing your answer these questions for yourself. A lot of these questions really just listening to our own answers internally can, help us.
Robyn, one thing that you said when you mentioned, the children that you were fostering or being that resource parent to, how they held their parents in high regard. And I always kept that in mind because the mom and dad were still mom and dad to my children that came through my doors. And even when the resource workers, the social workers would call me to want to talk about a scenario with the parents in front of the kids, I would always be mindful of that and say, it's not a good time. Even if the little kids couldn't really understand what I was saying, I just didn't want to put that in their space, right? Letting them realize that I'm really just here to support your mom, your dad, while they're going through this challenging experience. Ultimately, the goal is to have you be reunified with mom and dad if possible. And so just, I don't want to do anything that will skew their perception of what mom and dad are, who mom and dad are to them. Right. And so just that support.
And I think that goes into the broader construct of society as well. Like I'll stop using we. When I talk about somebody in a judgmental way, I'm skewing another person's perception of that other person.
Absolutely.
And it may be stereotyping, it may be from a bias, it may just be because I'm in a grouchy mood. I mean, quite honestly, like my lips get mean a little bit when I'm grouchy. Don't call me at 4, okay? Anybody else got an answer to this before we move on? All right. So friends and family, but knowing full well that the discussions in these situations could become echo chambers. Thanks for bringing that in.
Yes.
All right. For faulty thinking or powder kegs. Oh my gosh. This is really great for people trying to stand on their own soapboxes. Yeah. Thank you. I think that I've been guilty of that too, calling the people who I know are going to agree with me.
Go ahead. Back to another saying I heard: hurting people hurt people, but healing people heal people. Yeah, right.
I love that. I've never heard that second part of that.
Yeah. I heard that second part recently. I was like, wow, that's so profound.
Yeah, that's really great. Really great. All right, Andrew, let's go ahead and go to that third question.
All right. As we get into this next question, how are you responsible for others in your community? That's a great question.
Yeah, it is. And again, kind of a mirror. So for me, it depends on which community you're talking about. Because I think of my family as a community too. I
Mhm.
have a nuclear family, like my husband, myself, and our children. And then I have an extended family, which would be my siblings and his siblings and parents and grandparents and all of that. But within within my like nuclear family, I feel very responsible for
Mhm.
them. So much so that I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons about backing up and letting people be responsible for themselves and putting in boundaries. And then for like, as you go out, in this like ripple effect, uh, it just depends on how close you are to that nuclear.
Right.
Because I have decent boundaries with like my work colleagues and like support groups or other groups that I would call my community. I don't feel responsible for them. I think everybody's an adult and they can do their own thing.
Mhm.
And also like, just because you make a decision doesn't make you immune from the consequences. Like I'm okay with them having consequences as well. But for my nuclear family, I still struggle with that a little bit. Like I still probably shelter my kids a little bit more than I should, or
Mhm.
maybe do things like, I have a son who has a daughter and he's like, can you make me a dentist appointment? No. Like, no, you're old now. Like you have to be responsible for those kind of things.
Absolutely. That's a great perspective. I actually looked at it through the lens of the community in which I live. And
Uh-huh.
and only because I not only I have the wonderful privilege of living in the community that I've worked in
Mhm.
for over 20 years. And I've worn, like many people probably on this webinar, worn many different hats in my community. And so I see myself as a voice for my community.
Mhm.
And, realizing that, I've been blessed with a lot of resources and being able to call elected officials. I work with elected officials, and some people don't have that means to reach those elected officials. So I see myself as that voice to folks who just are deem themselves to be voiceless. But I am also an advocate for my community, right? I understand that, again, um, moving in and out of the community, I understand our priorities, I understand our challenges. We share those commonalities and I'm able to go and speak on behalf of the entire community where some folks don't feel comfortable being in that space. But I think most importantly, see myself as a gatekeeper, right? Because as
Mm.
much as we want to be all inclusive, some people come into the community and are not well-meaning. And how do we keep how do we maintain that, that safety for the people in the community by not allowing others? And I'm talking specifically about organizations or people who have intent to come in and harm the community, right? And how can I be a part of the gatekeeper network that says, no, not in our community. We won't allow that to happen,
I
right?
love that. I love that. And I was raised by like huge community advocates. My mom was the head of the PTO, and my dad was on the Citizens Advisory Council, and Boy Scout leaders, Girl Scout leaders, softball coaches, whatever. Like anything that needed to be done in the community, my parents were really involved until I was in high school, and then it, kind of lagged out. But I didn't get involved with the school as much as my parents because I had the fostering thing going. And so there was never a time I didn't have 8 kids in my house and was really, really busy. And everybody has to like take their space in the community. And I
Yes.
always figured my space was the fostering gig. So I felt really responsible for my fostering community for a lot of years. I ran the largest support group in Illinois. We had a whole, we had in-person meetings. We had a huge Facebook presence, and that that community I did feel really responsible for. But when you were talking about DC in general, I was like kind of inspired. I mean, that's first of all, let me just tell you, I love Washington, D.C. I get there as many times a year as I can because I think that it's just the greatest. And not just the monuments. I love going to the little coffee shops and just listening to people because there's so many interesting folks that live there. But I live in a small town, 40,000 people. It's a college town, and I'm not involved in my broader community very much. I would say like maybe I give on Free Cycle, but that's not real involvement. That's helping me get rid of my junk. But yeah, so that's inspiring. Maybe sometime soon I'm going to do that. Erica Jones is offering, I'm responsible for first making sure I'm respectful to those in my community. I also feel that I need to be responsible for offering to share parts of myself and my God-given talents to make the space I am better.
I love that. I love that. And Robyn, that goes back to your point. You shared your God-given talent. You played your part. Everybody has a role, right?
Right.
And it's up to us. And together we make a community, not apart, right?
Yeah, I love that. So thanks for helping me reframe that, because that does make me feel a little bit better. I always said if I could be half the person my mother was, then I'd be doing really great, because she was such a community supporter. Before adopt-a-roads were a thing, my mom was having community kid groups go on the streets and pick up all the garbage.
Wow.
She was just a cool lady who really loved the school community. It was great. Okay, anybody else want to answer this last question? We want to hear from you. If you want to talk, how are you responsible for others in your community? So Stephanie says, my neighbors on each side of me keep a lookout for things we need or we each need to know in our neighborhood. That's really great. I love that. Are you close with your neighbors, Latisha?
I am. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to be, because that means like you said, that personal time. But I realize, again, I always live by the adage, to whom much is given, much is required. And so, some of my neighbors all come out the house, hey, can you help us get, speed bumps on the street? And I'm like, I'm not at work today, but I realize that's my role, and I love it. I love making my community a better place. And if I can help others, be able to find their niche or be able to, get something accomplished, I'm all for it, but I'm big on teaching people how to advocate for themselves. I don't want to advocate for you, but I will help you to learn the skills of advocacy so you can get what you want and need for your community.
I love that. Angela offered, I established a neighborhood association. Our first grant request just became a reality, extending sidewalks. Congratulations, Angela.
Awesome.
That's great. Everybody needs nice, good sidewalks.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's great. So mine, I live out in the country, and my closest neighbors are just down the street. And we are a small community of chicken keepers. And so how we are responsible for each other is I'm like the coyotes in my yard. They're coming to your yard next. Get outside.
Yeah.
And they do the same for us. They don't come over and ask for sugar. We do invite each other to each other's like Memorial Day get together or whatever. And it's nice to have that. Janira says, community partnerships that best fit the needs of the community. Thank you, Janira.
Absolutely.
And Vanessa, I work for a child advocacy center, so I try to pursue connection with the community members outside that arena. For example, volunteering at the Historical Society. I love that. Thanks for offering all of those things. All right, I'm going to just give one more opportunity for anybody to get their typing and their pushing enter in. I knew there'd be one more. Daryl. And for my job, I work with parents who have substance abuse challenges and open CPS cases. To your point, the way in which we define community are extremely important. And I would only hope that folks would consider how similar populations in need also comprise our greater communities, no matter where we live and work. Yes.
Absolutely. Great.
And then Erica, due to me working in schools, I feel passionate about teaching others about the importance of encouraging early literacy. I feel I'm responsible for letting others know what we're dealing with in our schools. Thank you, Erica. I currently have a Facebook page that offers tips on how to teach your children to read. Erica, if you're comfortable, you can go ahead and post that Facebook and have, 26 new supporters.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. As an avid reader myself, I am always looking for tips on how to get I have 8 boys, and they don't like to read as much as mom does. So I get them a book a year, and I told my son last night, like, I'm not sure I'm going to get you a book for Christmas this year because I don't think you read the book I gave you. And he's like, the heck I didn't. I'm going to tell you all about it. And he told me, and I was like, okay, he did read it. Yeah, it's good. All right, Andrew, let's go to the next slide. Thanks, everybody, for that really great conversation. So we are embarking on and going to debut really soon our shared parenting with people on a journey to recovery. All right. Oh, and Erica said she just went ahead and shared the group's name, so everybody can take a look at that. Okay, so back to the slide is we're expanding. And we have a shared parenting series now that brings foster parents and birth parents together in a group to break down the barriers that these two groups often have. It's a 4-hour training, and it's a baseline. It was always intended to be our starting point. So now that we've had this out for about 5 years, our new training is going to be the shared parenting with people on our journey to recovery. Go ahead, Andrew, and flip the slide. And in this training, it's going to be all about exploring and learning together about the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences. We're going to talk about the 5 stages of change to help foster parents have a baseline of information, that change doesn't happen, that you don't wake up and decide you're going to be something and it just happens overnight, that there's stages. Next, we're going to try to give a, sorry, Andrew, I meant next bullet point. Sorry about that. And next, we're going to really try to give a fuller understanding about the path to recovery, that it is a journey. And that's why we call it a journey of recovery, not a journey to recovery, because there's typically not an ending point to recovery, that it's a daily journey. We're going to talk about the 5 strengthening families protective factors and how they play into sharing the responsibilities for parenting. We're going to look to uncover biases and components of trauma-informed care. And we're going to really drill in on establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries, what feels good to each one of the partners, and how to really establish that with your co-parenting partner. You can change the slide now, Andrew, and no problem. All right, so if we look back into the conversation that we just had, we'll see that we all are responsible for others in our community. We just answered that, like the echo chamber of faulty thinking that really was like pinpointed in my brain, that we can't be those things. And somebody said listening to their gut, and to really look and build that healthy relationship. Somebody talked about practicing discretion. These are all ways that we're already responsible for others in our community. I think that for me, Latisha, the quadrants here, the 4 quadrants, is an activity that we do in this shared parenting with people on our journey to recovery. And this helps us to really uncover the stigma that our society has on people with addictions or recovering from addictions. So if you think in your head, everybody, about what we say in our head about people who use drugs and alcohol, don't answer, just think in your head. What are some of the words and the images that come up when you think about people who use drugs and alcohol? What about people who have a mental health condition? What are the words and images that come up there? Or is in recovery? What's the words and the images? And then I want you to contrast it with what we think about people who have cancer. And what are the words and images that come up for you there? It's a really practical and powerful way to uncover the stigmas that we hold. In this class, we're going to uncover those stigmas. We're going to talk about stereotypes. We're going to talk about how to unearth our own biases and to confront them so we can have healthy relationships with the people that we are shared parenting with. All right, Andrew, go to the next slide.
Wow. And let me just say, Robyn, this training is definitely for someone like myself, who is a foster parent, who, again, just being human, may have, some of these stereotypes going on. And so this is definitely something that I need to be in. And so I'm going to set aside that time to be a part of this. And so you may be asking, what does this training look like? Why should I be a part of it? Again, it will help break down some of those stereotypes, thinking about what we discussed today around, community and how, we either can build community through our perceptions or take away from community because of those perceptions. So the format, what does this training look like? Now, it could be scheduled for a 1-day, 8-hour training. You can do it in 2 half-day trainings, 4 hours each, or even 4 segments, 2 hours each. And the great thing about it is it can be in person or it can be online. And engaging, now this is what I really like, because trauma-informed, strength-based, family-centered concepts. This is what, we learned, or I learned when going through my training to become a foster parent. How do I parent or foster parent children coming from trauma? And so this is a really great outcome of the training, and that you get to learn how to explore those trauma-informed, strength-based, family-centered concepts using small and large group activities, guided reflection, role playing. And it'll be some lecture, but again, it's going to be interactive and really hands-on. So because we want to hear different perspectives, it's not about Be Strong Family saying that we are the experts. We want to be able to share the tools to help guide you along in this process of shared parenting with people on a journey of recovery. And so as you see that QR code, you can take your phone and just scan that. It's coming soon to our Be Strong Families Institute. And the ideal thing about this is that it's available for agencies working with families to do your professional development, or again, for foster parent groups seeking to have that continued skill development. This is something I'm definitely going to take back to my group of foster parents here with the Child and Family Services Administration, as this could potentially be offered as a skill development component to our trainings.
Yeah, I love that, Latisha. I think that it's super important. And I always say that great foster parents, great resource parents, they train for skill, not hours. But this is a long training. It's an 8-hour training, and it can get foster parents some of that continuing education hours that they need for licensure. But really, it's about a topic that a majority of foster parents deal with. A lot of our kids are coming from homes where their parents are on a journey to recovery, or they will be on a journey to recovery. So for me, it's inspiring to know that it can really touch a lot of people's lives when we are strengthening our foster parents and we're teaching them how to be trauma-informed, strength-based, and family-centered. We are doing a service not only to the families, but to the children that are going to go home to those families. When we can build a community around the birth parents, around the parents that are child welfare involved, we are strengthening a whole family, which strengthens our communities, strengthens our states and our nations, and it can really be a great thing. If you have questions about this, you can always email me, Robyn at bestrongfamilies.net, and Andrew did go ahead and put that into the chat. We'd love to see some of you in your groups there. Andrew, go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, Andrew did put a poll up. And if you could just take time to answer those 2 questions, that would be great. And amplify. So on our daily webinars, you know, guys, we've been doing daily webinars almost daily, weekdays, the 5 days a week for 2.5 years. And these webinars, we started putting this amplify in the back of the webinars so we could bring our voices together and make them louder. So today, Be Strong Families is amplifying serving parents. So if you could add your hashtag, what this webinar inspired you to amplify, that would be really great. And I'm going to add mine there, and I'm going to say amplify love. And Angela, amplify judge less. Yes, thank you. That's great. Great. A few more people. Andrew, amplify uncovering bias. Thank you, Andrew. Tammy, amplify non-judgmental. Amplify build community from Kristen. Thanks. Amplify no community without unity. Oh, I love that. Never, you are full of them today. Vanessa, amplifying understanding trauma. Thank you. Thank you all for participating in that. And you amplify open mind, open service. Great tagline, Evelyn.
Yes.
Rodolfo, amplify community. Thank you. You can go ahead and flip the slide, Andrew. Amplify learning. I'm going to keep just shouting them out.
Okay.
As long as they come in. But Latisha's going to talk about a Taste of Cafe.
Yes. All right. So this Friday, September the 30th at 12 p.m. Central Time, you will be able to join us for a Taste of Cafe, healing hearts and navigating trauma and loss. I love the Parent Cafe. So this is just going to give you a taste of what our Parent Cafes are all about. And hopefully you'll be able to drop by, get that taste, and join a much larger cafe, because these are life-saving. At least they were life-saving for me. Let me tell you, as that foster parent who needed this resource, it was something that just kept me going from cafe to cafe. So definitely hit that QR code, register, and stop by and just get a taste of what the cafe experience is all about.
I love that. And just a shout out to our parent leaders, because our National Parent Cafe leadership team, they run these Taste of Cafes. So these are parents who've been touched by the cafe process, who stood up and said, I want in, I want to spread this. So we gathered and we built a community of many parent leaders, and they stand up every Friday to do this for the community. All right, so here to register for upcoming webinars, you can visit bestrongfamilies.org/webinars, or you can just hit that little QR code with your phone if you can. And if you want more information about those webinars, you can email info@bestrongfamilies.net. Awesome. And Andrew's putting lots of good information in there. We also have the Be Strong Family Shop, where we have cafe supplies, parent engagement resources, games, gifts, and much more. There's a QR code for that, or you can visit bestrongfamilies.org. And last, our YouTube community. Latisha, you want to talk about this?
Oh, yes. Let me tell you, this YouTube community is packed with so many different resources. This one right here, I'm not a father, of course, but I actually watched this one, and it was so great to hear the perspective of these dads talking about why we should honor our father figures in our lives, right? And so definitely join the YouTube community. If you miss a webinar, you can always go back and check it out if you can't see it live. It is packed with so many resources that, again, it is worth the time to just be a part of the community, the YouTube community, and stay abreast of all the good topics, the good things that we're discussing in these webinars from week to week.
That's awesome. And really, you today could kind of push us over the button. Oh, no, almost. We need to get to 450. That's our goal for this week. So join our YouTube, get notifications, come and see our vast library that we have been building there.
Help us get to 450.
Right. I know. It's not, that's kind of exciting. It kind of excites me. I'm going to share it with my family and friends too. It is 12:55 here. So we're going to go ahead and say goodbye. On behalf of Be Strong Families, thank you for joining us today. I am better for it. I hope you are too. I learned a ton and I'm so, so proud of this community. Thanks, guys. See
Have
you
a
next
great
time.
one.